Hello, everybody. All right. Looks like we are ready to get started. I want to thank you guys for checking in and coming in to hang out with us. We'll give you a couple of more minutes to get in. I see some people are still just coming in, so we want to welcome you guys. Thank you guys for hanging out with us tonight. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Danny Bullock, and I am a life-centered planner with Dream Builders Financial Services right here in Rhode Island. I love to help people create a greater return on life. And as we continue to get started, I've got a couple of screens going here, so I'm looking in a couple of different directions. So forgive me if I'm not looking at you directly all the time. What I wanted to do this evening is kind of bring in some people I like and I enjoy speaking with a lot. One of them in particular has been a personal coach, a spiritual father at times to me. And with the current state of everything that's going on in the world today, I wanted to kind of bring somebody in who could talk to those things and just, give us some pointers and encouragement in how to navigate a little better through really untroubled and uncertain waters. And so I do have a couple of people I'm going to bring in. Dr. Jeffrey Williams is that first individual I'm talking about, and I'm just going to bring them in. We're going to talk for about 35, 40 minutes. And if individuals have questions or anything like that, we may take a couple of questions. But the last 10 minutes of this webinar, I want to bring on two men who are aspiring to build dreams for people right here in the city. And I want them to talk a little bit about what they're doing and how they're trying to help and change the lives of individuals that they deal with every day. So that'll be the last 10 minutes of the actual webinar in itself. So with that said, let me see if I can get Dr. Williams to come on in. Good doctor. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right, I got you.
Okay.
How are you going, good doctor? How are you doing?
Doing excellent, man. And thank you for having me on today with John and Anthony and being part of this gathering today.
Well, I'm glad you could take some time to actually join us and most importantly, impart just your wisdom. Like I said earlier, at times you have been everything from a personal coach to a spiritual father. You helped me navigate my way through life well before this season. And I thought it'd be important to kind of bring you in and just impart some of your wisdom and help people who are in this season and maybe they feel stuck. I thought it was important to name it something adequate. How do you rebound from something that seems so dire? But we both know that there is always opportunity in the midst of crisis. And so trying to, and I don't want to go too far in it because I don't want to lead into what you're going to talk about, but really helping us to navigate through this uncertain time. So I don't want to take up too much time. I know you got a great presentation we're going to end up going through in a second, but I want you to just give us a little bit about your background and who you are for those who may not know who you are.
All right, I'll do that. And I'll be able to present part of this presentation here in a moment. As Mr. Bullock said, I'm Jeff Williams, and I am the husband of Leilani and the father of Joy and Grace Williams. That's number one on my CV. But I'm also an individual who has had some experiences where I had to learn how to come back from setbacks. And that's part of what we're going to talk about here in a moment. I graduated here at Brown University in social environmental analysis, and then did a doctoral degree from Gordon Conwell Theological Seminary and a master's degree from the Harvard Kennedy School of Government, a master's in public administration. I offer those as an explanation for part of what I'm going to talk about, because sometimes your education can get in the way of you making your comeback, because the comeback really requires a certain level of grit that even education degrees as a world that their degrees aren't helpful to them at this point in time, But there is some things that are helpful, and I've kind of discovered those things, and I look for the opportunity to share them with you. Share them with you tonight. And so it'll be interactive, and I'm hoping that if you do have some questions, you'll be able to, get them out, be able to respond accordingly. And I'll need to have access to the screen share here.
You don't have it? Let me.
No, it's not coming through just yet. But as you're working on that,
how about now?
Making me a host. Let's see here. Part of what I'm going to share tonight is a presentation, we can call it that, but it's really a strategy on really how to come out of chaos. And I don't know a person actually at this point in time who isn't in some form of chaos in their life, personally, financially, even from a health perspective, that could not benefit a series of experiences that I wouldn't wish on anyone, including the sudden death of my sister at age 45, to the untimely death and suicide of a personal assistant, to the loss of an 18-year marriage, and in the meantime, raising 2 preteens and working on my doctoral dissertation at the same time. I was also in a bona fide depression, despite the experiences that I was having that really just were not, just really uncool, to say the least. But I'm here to tell you there's life after this, and that there is order out of chaos, but there has to be a roadmap, and a way forward. And so I want to share some of those principles with you. And in a moment.
Do you have access, real quick, Doc, to the screen, or?
I do not. Host.
All right, so I will share.
All right, so Mr. Danny was on my website, and notice at the bottom of my website, a Dr. Jeff talked about, order out of chaos. 8 things you must do to create the life you want and deserve. And he and I, as he mentioned, we're friends, so we had some conversations around that topic, and thought it would be helpful if I shared those principles with you. So I really want to do that. For those of you who are watching, I want you to think of, call to mind, where you are in your life, and see if these principles can be applied to you.
Yep, we got you.
All right, great. Hey, man, way to stay in there. I would have abandoned about 15 minutes ago. So you're a good man for doing that. All right, folks, I'm going to bring you through these 8 things that I've discovered that were helpful. And hopefully they'll be applicable to you in your life situation. And please feel free to interrupt me as we go through this here. The first thing is, in terms of coming out of a chaotic situation or a downturn, a reversal of some sort, is to recognize something is just not right. There's really no place for denial. And one of the things I've found, Danny, is that many times we think that if I just close my eyes, literally or figuratively, the situation is going to go away. It just doesn't happen that way. For a long time, I was actually allergic to my mailbox because I just didn't want to go near it.
We all might have that problem today a little.
Yeah, right. So I had to kind of face and recognize something's off, and I cannot change that which I'm unwilling to confront. I cannot change something that I am unwilling to confront or even recognize as a problem. And so that's number one. Now, we don't want to live there. We don't want to stay there, but we do have to recognize, something's off here. And if I'm going to change my story, I got to know exactly what the history is. And
yeah, I think you said something when we talked about it a little earlier. Mike Tyson said, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the mouth. You have to acknowledge that you were punched in the mouth.
Yeah, right, right. You know, saying I'm not hurt, I'm not hurt, I'm not hurt doesn't mean you're not hurt. You know what I mean? You know, no, it's real. You know, and owning that. You know, you don't. Again, we don't have to stay there. We cannot stay there, but we do have to own. You know, this sucks right now. You know, let's call it what it is. This is off. That doesn't mean I'm quitting, but it does mean, you know, this is a messed up situation. And I'm sure, you know, the folks that are watching this either live or at some other point, you know, can relate to that. The other thing is, and I found this to be true, particularly with men and in areas of faith, is that we fail to acknowledge the facts. Facts are our friends. In other words, facts are data points, gives you information, but facts are not necessarily truth. And often they are not truth, right? The truth is that I can and will overcome this, but the facts are I'm bankrupt, you know, right? And we have to, again, this goes into number one, we got to own that for a moment and say, you know what, these numbers are off. All this red ink is not good. You know, these tests are not saying what I want them to say right now, right? And so we have to acknowledge that, right? So number two is to come out of chaos is we got to acknowledge that we're actually in chaos, you know, and to the degree, Danny, to the degree that a person is willing to drill down on those numbers will be the degree of their healing. And I say that in quotation marks. You see, if you only kind of look at it superficially, I'm, you know, from a financial perspective, I'm just overdrawn by a few hundred points, $100. That's a little different than recognizing how I got there. The facts are I overspent. The facts are, you know, I had 4 flat tires.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Those are facts. And for the folks who are faith walkers and talkers, as we are, the reality is you cannot pray away a fact. You must look at it. And then we move. So how do we change this fact into something that we really want, right? And so that's number two.
Having some technical difficulties, but I think we're ready to rock and roll now. We're going to continue with Dr. Williams, who is in the second step of his presentation about operating through chaos. So you want to continue, good doctor?
Yes, sir. Yeah, so again, number two is you got to acknowledge the facts. I cannot emphasize this enough. Now, as a certified financial planner guy, you know, you work to get people to kind of really take a good hard look at their situation, right? And so this is going to be true for anything, anywhere that you're trying to create a life you really want. You got to start where you're at. It's like a good GPS. You can't plug in where you're going properly unless you really locate where you are specifically. And so that's a really important element, you know. Number three on this 8-step journey is don't stay here. In other words, once we take a good look at where we're at and, you know, break out the handkerchief and cry a little bit, you know, and mourn over what could have been and should have been, at some point we got to say, you know what, I'm just not going to stay here. I'm just not going to stay here. I'm not going to live in this situation. I'm not going to stay in this situation. I'm not going to just accept my facts as my destiny. It just happens. I'm just happen to be at this latitude and longitude right now, but I'm not going to stay here. And so the subtitle of that, which is the title of a book I'm writing, Miracles Happen When You Make Movement. In other words, if you really want to create something in terms of your future, it's going to require some initiative on your part.
So
right?
What would you say to a person who, let's say they acknowledge the facts, they were laid off, business actually closed, they have no business or no company to go back to. I usually tell my clients, save at least 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses. We're hitting that mark now. They acknowledge all of those facts and they just flat out say, I don't know where to go. What would you say to that person?
Well, as you undoubtedly have become aware, most of us don't have 3 to 6 months.
Yeah.
You know? So we got to that point,
4 months ago.
Right, exactly. We was already there, when this whole thing hit.
Mm.
So one of the things I talk to people about, and I'm very serious about this, folks, although it sounds a bit humorous, is with the Kleenex in one hand, you got, kind of wiping the tears. You have to do the next best thing that you can do, right? So as I'm working with individuals who are underemployed, out of work, right? So outside of that pain, what's the next best thing I can do in terms of employment or opportunities, right? Mm-hmm. When someone says there's no jobs out there, well, that's not true, right? Mm-hmm. That's just your perception right now. But what's the next best thing we can do? So I have actually, paid for and helped people get their resume together and then help them shop, right? Mm-hmm. Or help them begin to develop their personal brand or their personal business to begin to make some money and move forward in that direction. But the most important thing to directly answer your question is, what's the next best thing a person can do? Now, how I get them to think that way, though, is what advice would you give to somebody who came to you with that same problem, right? Mm-hmm. And when I talk to individuals about that, they do know how to advise their friends or family. But because they're caught up in the emotion of it and the pain of it and their reality, all of a sudden, they don't know what to do, right? So I say, well, what advice would you give to that person? Well, I would tell them to do X, Y, and Z. Well, that's how we start this ball rolling, right? Now, this is the deal. And this is the part, folks, that I just got to tell you, when you talk about faith, this is where it's going to drop in here, is that when you begin to make movement in the known direction that you can see, it creates opportunities that you cannot see.
Oh, wow. Say that again.
Right? When you start making movement in the direction that you do know, it creates movement or opportunities in areas that you haven't even thought about yet.
Wow.
Right? So I mean, I got many, many, many examples of this. Say a person decides, you know what, I'm going to go, I'm going to go look at a new car today, and I'm going to try to get the prices on that, only to find that when they go down there, they run into somebody who's looking for a graphic designer, and that happens to be their skill set. But had they not followed through on that one basic instinctive move, they would not have run into the other situation. This is why depression and stagnation and procrastination is so dangerous. It's because it prevents you from making a move. You've got to make movement, because miracles follow movement, right? So when you start that motion, it sets something else in motion.
And it doesn't have to be something grandiose. It literally is, like you said, maybe having dusting your resume off. All of us have probably had to do that in the season. Clean up your resume, update it, and things of that nature.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the simple movement of that creates and unlocks something else. It's really mystical, but that's just how it goes down, right? And so if you're listening to this and watching this, there is a movement that you need to make that will unlock your destiny. There's no question about it. I say that without apology or hesitation. There is a movement you can make that's going to unlock your destiny. It may not make a whole lot of sense to you right now. It may not be, as you mentioned, grandiose, historic, earth-moving, but all of a sudden, that one movement creates something else, and all of a sudden, here we are in the game and didn't even know that there was a game being played.
So miracles in the movement. Got it. That's powerful.
Number 4, and again, the inner game controls the outer game, right? Always. The inner game, the mind game controls the material game. And so number 4 on this list that I kind of assembled these pieces from broken pieces of my own life. I had to recognize that there is more, right? I had to have the courage to dream the dream. In the midst of charred remains, I had to pick up my head momentarily and realize, wait a minute, there's more. Others are living more. Others are experiencing more. There's got to be more for me, right? And on a very real tip, you know, I had to do it, and maybe you've had to do it, but you got to do this even with tears coming down your eyes. You know what I mean? So well, this is the moment when you're bouncing on your chest, talking about, wow, you know, I got courage. It's like, no, I'm feeling all kinds of fear right here, but I know there's more. So let me dream.
Absolutely. You know, one of the definitions of courage, and I think Les Brown says this, sometimes courage is not the loud roar, but it's the quiet saying at the end of the day, I will try again tomorrow. And so that's big. Having hope right now in what seems to be a hopeless situation, you know, takes, you know, not only courage, but mental toughness, right? You would have to have some type of mental toughness to be able to continuously pick yourself up day after day and keep moving forward.
And really it ties into number 3 in terms of the miracles in the movement, because really it's a 10-minute dream. I got enough courage for 10 minutes today. Right? You know what I mean? You know, I had enough strength during that season, Danny, where I had about 2 to 3 hours of physical strength, and then I needed to get back in bed. You know what I mean? And then 2 hours went to 3 hours. 4, you know what I mean? And so the same thing when it comes to a dream. I'll dream a better situation, and then everything else will come crashing down on me, and it kind of feels like it's washed away. But the more I did that, the more courage I got in the face of my own fears to create a life I really wanted to live, right? And so to those that are watching who are taking the time out, know that there is more despite the less that you're experiencing right now. I am here to tell you there is more.
And maybe this is a good time to create some of those things that we have probably been putting off for so long. Maybe that's the only thing that we do have working for us, or that could work for us, is this thing that we've been holding on, that we always wanted to do, right?
Absolutely. I mean, this is an amazing time, you know, in this moment in time in our world stage to actually take risks, to dream the dream, to start the business, to own your situation, and say, you know what, this time next year I'm not going to be in the same situation. I tell myself that in one form or another every day.
Yeah, even if it's one step forward too. It doesn't, again, I think one of the things that we have to remind ourselves of, I remind myself of, is, you know, a step forward is still a step forward. You know, even if it's one step forward, you know, it doesn't have to be 3 or 4 or I'm off and running. Some days, like you said, all I have energy for is this one step forward. So I think that knowing it's more, having hope, is huge right now.
I mean, it is beyond, you know. It'd be like someone coming to sit with you as a financial strategist who's actually broke. There's if y'all are listening to me right now, listen to your friend. I would go see somebody to help strategize my future, right? That's part of the dream. You don't have to have anything to dream.
Yeah, and you know, it's funny you talk about that. My first step in my process, I like to call a financial checkup. So at the very least, when you walk away from me after sitting down the first time, at the very least, you're going to have a good assessment of where you are. So you will at least have that. Like you say, you go back to number 2, talking about knowing the facts. You know, you're right. Very important. Know exactly where you are, because, you know, how can you grow if you don't know which direction you're going?
Yeah. I mean, that's powerful. And that is one of the main things that I know working with students and clients is this denial thing, as opposed to really looking at what we're working with here, and realizing that every one of us has in their possession right this second enough to start their comeback story. Every person. I think I've traveled to, I think, at least 12 nations. And regardless of the economics where people are struggling, living on $2 a day, every single person has in their present possession something to begin their comeback story. But it takes acknowledgement of really what we do have and what we're working with, right? That's a baseline of health, baseline of finances, baseline of the relationships. All of those things are really important, super important. You know, I hope, listen, I didn't need any help today getting excited, but I promise you right now, I feel like running through a wall right now because there is more out there for you to do and to accomplish, to enjoy. And your history is not a prophecy of your tomorrow unless you let it.
Wow, history is not a prophecy of your tomorrow. Wow.
Sir. No, sir. It's time to make history, create history. Number 5, find a strategy. Find a strategy, or discovering a winning strategy. In other words, there is a move to make, and a strategy is required in order to do that. Now, as we're going to look at some other elements of that will involve other people usually. Because really, we don't know what we don't know. See, there's 3 levels of competence in one aspect. One is the unconscious incompetent. That person doesn't even know that they don't know, right? And to a certain degree, in certain areas, that is me and was me, sure. Then you have the conscious incompetent. At least you know you don't know. That's what we got to get people.
Yeah.
You got to, I just don't know about these things. I don't know about finance. I don't know, right? And then there's a conscious competent person. That person knows what they need to know. And this is where strategy comes from. Now, again, and if I may say, again, my history is, in terms of part of my professional life, has been in ministry. Prayer is not a strategy by itself. May I say that? Hope is not a strategy either. Wishing is not a strategy, right? It may give you access to strategy, but it is not by itself a strategy, nor is worrying a strategy, right? So you want a strategy.
Can't just set it and forget it?
No, you cannot. Not this one. Not when you're trying to get out of that hole. You know what I mean? I was in a dark place, and as I tell my story about my why, my WHY, it helped me develop a strategy. See, until a person knows their why, the how and the what, is irrelevant.
Yeah.
Right? It's irrelevant. Right? And we're going to get to that here in a second. But find a strategy, discover a winning strategy. It's super important, folks. And everybody needs that. I have never met a person, and I have never met a person who couldn't make a comeback if they would actually listen and get a strategy. I've never met a person. I've met many people who are unwilling to do that, but I've never met a person who couldn't come back. So if they get in contact with me or get in contact with you, you're going to breathe hope into them because you're going to give them a strategy.
But this point, I have a couple of questions about this, is what I think maybe a lot of people struggle with, and I'll let you talk about it first, and then I'll ask you. I got a really specific question I want to ask you, but go ahead.
What, in terms of making an investment?
Make an investment.
Yeah, make an investment. It's going to cost you. it's going to cost you. And I'll tell you what it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you time. It's going to cost you company, in terms of friends, sometimes even family. It's going to cost you money at times. But the real issue isn't what it's going to cost. Do you see yourself as someone who's valuable enough to be invested in or to invest? Sometimes we don't take care of ourselves because we don't really feel very good about ourselves. Right? So if I'm nobody and I'm nothing, why invest time and money in me? Right? And furthermore, if you don't value yourself, why would anybody else value you or invest in you?
And I think when I hear investment, and maybe other people hear investment too, their first thought is money. Well, I don't have any money to invest, into, myself or, my future or anything like that. It's not necessarily just money, right?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And in most cases, not only is it not money as a primary thing, in many cases, the money comes after you make the certain investments. In other words, when I invest the time in knowledge, it puts me in a situation where the resources, right? When I invest the time in the exploration effort to understand the facts, I may even discover I got a little more money than I thought, right? But this is not about money, right? It's not, initially it is not about money. And really the only people who have a problem with that word investment are people who are broke. People who are making money while they sleep are not upset when you hear the word investment. So where we have to shift our thinking is begin to realize, what do I have in my present possession that I could put forward as an investment? If you're drawing breath today, you've got 24 hours to invest. You've got to invest that. It could be in knowledge. It could be in relationships. It could be in exercise, right? Right? It could be in discovering your baseline, where you are. But that's an initial investment. But if you don't feel that you're of value or there's no hope, you're not going to do any of that.
And so sometimes the time element is a little bigger than the money. Sometimes, people may be willing to, spend a couple of dollars on certain things, maybe a book or something like that, but you still have to take the time to read it. You still have to take the time to, want to actually acquire the knowledge, right?
Yeah. I mean, and to your point, this has been a true story of my coaching clients, of the courses I've run, I've had, I think, over 1,300 coaching students and clients. Time is your investment. That's one thing that is allotted to you every day that you're drawing breath. You got that. Now, how you take those increments and where you put them will determine your return on investment over time, right? And so you got that. You wake up, you got that. It might be 15 minutes a day. When you add that up, it's going to mean something, right?
Yeah.
And I found most people, if they let somebody do a forensic on their schedule and their priorities, they will discover
how much time.
Oh man, you got time. You got time to get a degree. You watching that television. You got time. You got time. You got, and time can be money.
And I've been guilty of that. I've sat down to say, I'm going to watch 1.5 hour episode of some sitcom. Half hour turns into an hour turns into 2. Next thing you know, I've gone 4 hours straight and now I'm going to bed. So it's very easy to get caught in, just wasting time. And so you're right, doing a forensic analysis of your time. I sometimes have people write down how they spent every hour of the day for a week. And we'll come to those understandings where they see you have more than enough time to, spend time reading or learning something else, maybe taking a class to better yourself professionally. And so you're right. Making that investment with time is sometimes more difficult than money, than giving up money.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, in certain relationships, people would rather have you invest time in them than throw some money at them.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, you think
Because you
about
can always make more money. You can't always get time.
you can't always get time. That's good. You
Yeah.
know, one of the things I discovered, brother, on this journey was that I did more, accomplished more in a full-blown depression
Wow.
than I did prior to and even since. Why is that? It's because I only had a few hours of strength that I had to invest.
Mm.
I had to invest what was important. I didn't have time for anything else. I didn't have energy for anything else, right? That is the only way I can look back at that. I got 2 advanced degrees in a depression.
Wow. Wow.
How do you do that? It's only because I only had, 2 hours and 4 hours. I would sleep in the parking garage in Cambridge and Harvard Square in between classes because
Wow.
I didn't have strength to do anything else. And when I did have a little bit of strength, it was to be given to my daughters, eat a little bit, and try to pastor the church at the same time, right?
Wow. Wow.
And so if you're watching this and you're in the midst of chaotic situation and a painful situation, you got time.
Mm.
You need to let somebody look into your schedule and help you cut back and cut away and show you where your time is. And you can turn your situation around.
You know, you're speaking about how you operated in your depression. One of the things I've realized with me is sometimes with a crisis or success, it helps me work at an optimal level.
Yeah.
Like I end up coming up or looking at every avenue to try to solve a problem. You know, and sometimes, just as change is a part of life, so is crisis and stress. And sometimes that stress isn't necessarily a bad thing because good things come out of it. Like you said, even though depression is horrible, you were able to use that time and use that situation to help you focus, and you actually came out better, with it, which kind of leads us right to your next point is get help, which I think is one of the most needed, most neglected things that we probably need, especially men. We suffer so much in silence. It's amazing how much we could help ourselves just by letting somebody else know that we're not all right.
Man, that's if there was a reason for people to be on and watching, it's right here. Is that you need to get help. And sometimes the help you need isn't the help you know about already. When you survey whom you might talk to, they may not be the ones necessarily. But I can promise you that there's help available. Now, they may not solve all your problems. They may just be one conversation, but you've got to be willing to say, hey, I need help. I'm not okay. Right? Or I am, I got degrees, but I'm drowning. You know what I'm saying? And to be honest about that, this tag here doesn't sound grammatically correct here, but it's an important statement. Everyone needs someone at all times. Everyone does. And what I've learned to do in my particular case, not just because of my profession in terms of being an empowerment strategist, but I realized that I hire my help when I need it. Right? I get a coach. I call the therapist. I call the friend, right? And I don't want to be babysat. You know what I mean? I don't want someone to hold my hand all the time. But everybody needs somebody who can speak into them, who loves them enough, but is not in love with them, whereby they won't tell them the truth or give them the strategy that they need, right? So if you're going to come out of your chaos, you should have somebody to whom you can share elements of your story with and ask for insight and ask for some help. You know?
And that kind of one goes against everything that we as men sometimes are taught to believe. We don't need anybody, right? We can do this by ourselves. I usually say, guys, every man's famous last words is, I got this, and so that's imperative that we, especially now, desperately seek out if we need mental counselors to kind of help us walk through and process. This is a traumatic event, regardless of what you may think and what you may acknowledge. We are suffering a traumatic event, together. And so some of us need more help than others to kind of walk through this new season. And so that get help, walking with somebody is imperative. So,
you look at the rise of support animals. You got support animals that are miniature horses getting on airplanes. True story. A pig, right? But cats, dogs. Why? It's hysterical in one aspect, but the other side of it is that we all need somebody, and in some cases, I need you to be my eyes because my eyes are swollen shut from the trauma. I can't see my way. I can't feel my way. I'm unconsciously incompetent and emotionally disabled. I need somebody, right? And so we have to be willing to expose ourselves. Can be risky, but expose ourselves so that we can get the help that we need, right? And I just cannot emphasize this enough. I did not know I had been depressed for years until I was playing golf with a psychiatrist who was retired. And one day I said to him, I want to come talk to you. I can't get out of bed. I just couldn't seem to get myself together. And within 10 minutes, he said, you're clinically depressed.
Wow.
He renewed his license to treat me. I was his only client in his 70s. And you know what he did? Let me tell you what he didn't do. He never prayed with me. He just kept asking me questions so I could talk about what was going on, and I could not stand being there, right? It wasn't fun, but it was necessary to get me through so that I can get on with my life and create the life that I want and felt I deserved, right? And so this is a critical element across the board, folks. You may not be depressed, but you may be suffering or struggling in other areas. Could be financial areas. It could be personal areas. Could reach out.
Wow.
And your help can come to you in packages that you're just not used to.
Yeah. Could be that friend, could be an old coworker, could be a psychiatrist, like you said. It could come in various ways. So
yeah,
So all right, so we're moving along right up to the end. Last slide is do it now. That's self-explanatory, right?
Yeah, I think it is, but oddly enough, most of the people that are watching and listening are suffering from procrastination. Procrastination is like carbon monoxide. You don't even know it hits you till you're done, right? So many people are, putting off what they need to get on with, get on with today. And so, can I take them to the last slide and just talk about a couple of resources?
Oh, absolutely. For individuals who would want to know how to get in contact with you and stuff like that, things that you have going on.
Yeah, we ran through these different points, and I really want to thank my friend Danny for inviting me to share a little bit about this. But this is serious business for me from the standpoint of I just believe that people can do better, be better, accomplish more with the right support in the process. I have a podcast, motivatemetoday.podbean.com, Empowerment Podcast. Please check it out, subscribe to it. They're quick podcasts, 20 minutes or so, and some even less, that I think will motivate you, encourage you. Creative Power Productivity. It's 4 videos that really talk about some of the things we're talking about now, right? Procrastination, overcoming certain things. There's a free ebook called Resurge: From Disorder to Divine Order in 7 Steps. That is almost my favorite.
And it's free. Should be their favorite.
And it's free, right? So you should definitely click that off. Now, please understand that the bit.ly links, the bit.ly/produce2020, that's all one word there and lowercase. The capitalization is important here. So the free ebook, the capital R there for Research the book. Knowing Your Why, the Key to Unlocking Full Potential. That's a book that really tells my story and gives people a strategy, Danny, on how to lock into the most important desire they have. Once you figure out what's going to do it, you'll come out of anything. And there's a workbook that is done, and this actually is in its 5th semester being taught at a college here in Rhode Island, no less. I thought it was really interesting that they picked it up. And so my contact information is, my website's there. So I'm done, I'm out, but thank you, brother.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. You want to return the hosting duties back over to me? Thank you again, Dr. Williams. I know we're running close to the time, but I want to bring on the last 2 guys that I spoke about, as I do believe what they're doing, what they're aspiring to do, is very, very important and powerful, because they are building and working with here in the city of Rhode Island is so important. So I want to bring on Anthony Hubbard with Youth Build and John Antonacci. All right, John, Anthony, how are you guys doing?
Great, and yourself?
I'm all right. So real quick, John, I'm going to start with you. John and Cheryl Antonacci are clients of mine. They've been clients of mine for about 4 years. They make jewelry. And a few months ago, John came up with a great concept for a bracelet. And I want him to talk about it briefly as I kind of show you guys what it is and how it works. So John, tell us a little bit more about the Unity bracelet.
Sure, you bet. First, thanks, guys, for having me and Anthony on. This is great. Dr. Williams, you said it earlier, I'm going to run through a brick wall now. So my medical bills, apparently you're not a medical doctor, but if I break a bone or two. So as far as the jewelry thing, so my wife and I have been in the industry for quite some time, and Danny was nice enough to invite me to go to Youth Build Prep Academy. It was probably 5 or 6 months ago, maybe less. I don't know. COVID.
That was a little further than that.
Yeah, was it?
It was
okay.
Cold outside. I remember.
I'm all messed up. All messed up. I don't even know what today is. But Anthony had this plea. He was up there talking about Youth Build, and I got to see firsthand the kind of fun things that they've been working on and how important it is. And Anthony was basically like, look, we need help. We need help. And, who am I? I'm not in much of a position to help in terms of teaching a kid I could break things, but certainly not build things. So using my jewelry contacts and this, that, and the other thing, a friend of mine, she manufactures I can't say the name of her biggest account, but regardless, it's high quality stuff. So she came up to me and she said, hey, I've got this bracelet. So Anthony, guys, I don't want to take credit for the design of this bracelet. It was my friend Ashley. And she basically was like, I don't know what to do with it. I go, I do. So my wife and I created Treasured Threads, because Danny's been a huge inspiration to me personally, just to really try and get involved more outside of professional things. I've been on boards and all these boring things, and what Youth Build Prep is doing is just so much more important than anything like that, what I've been doing in the past. So Danny inspired me to basically somehow include this in here. So what we did was we named these Unity threads, because you saw as Danny was pulling them apart, they kind of look like 2 people if you look at them coming together. And that's really kind of what's been irking me lately, is just this pulling apart of everybody between the coronavirus and everything else that's going on besides the coronavirus, socially, politically, everything. It's just, boy, it's just so disheartening. Anthony and I, good friends, same thing with Danny. And it's one of those things to be like, we need to show the world, hey, we can all come together. And this piece does that. So we called it the Unity Threads. Basically, if you tell people to purchase it, they purchase it. It's sterling silver, so it's not junk. Like I said, she manufactures some good people. And $10 of the donation, you can choose to go to Youth Build Prep. So we would take $10 of the price and just put it right towards Youth Build Prep. So it's a win-win. You get a great bracelet, really cool talking piece. You get to show people that you're united, that you believe in a cause, and you're not alone on a secular island. And you help out Anthony and the rest of these kids, which is huge. So that's what we do.
Okay. And I want to bring Anthony on just to talk about Youth Build in itself and why I believe it's such a great worthy cause. Things he's been doing here in the city. I think we need to highlight more and get more resources too, so he can continue to do what he's doing. He's boots on the ground in a time where we need men like him leading on the forefront of change. So Anthony, give us a little bit more information on Youth Build.
Yeah, so very quickly, it was interesting that the topic of conversation led with chaos, because many of our young people come to us in a very chaotic stage in their life where they have tried education or the education system has failed them. And many people think that Youth Build Prep is just an alternative education program or workforce development. In reality, what we are cross-sector of education, workforce, social change, life-changing experiences and exposure, so that young people can have options when they complete their secondary education. We engage them on a full-time basis, providing them the opportunity to earn a high school diploma while gaining viable work skills. Traditionally, we have done construction training, but we realize that not all young people go into the construction field, but we use construction as a tool to teach them about civic engagement and giving back and rebuilding their community. So they build affordable housing. So you take young people who come to us very chaotic and don't know which direction their life is going to take them, and they become change agents within their community. And when they leave us, they continue that leadership role in their families, within the Youth Build movement, within their communities. The other important piece about Youth Build is in the heightened tension that we're facing nationally, right? We've been ringing the bell and blowing the horn for years about we need to do better by our young men of color. We are failing our young men. Our young men are leaving this earth too young, too soon. And now that others are starting to realize that this is an issue, folks are now trying to figure out the intervention. And we've been trying to open up a school that's focused on young men of color in Providence for the last 4 years, which has been authorized by the state legislation, but we just can't get the doors open just yet. And if that happens, the powerful movement that we will be able to accomplish within our urban core communities is really about empowerment. So taking young people from a chaotic state to empowerment is really what our mission is about. And our big, bold mission is providing a liberating educational experiences for all students, but with a focus on boys and young men of color to be civically engaged. And we're able to accomplish that and be able to get the resources to continue our operations to accomplish that. I think we will see a different type of future for our urban core and the young people that's coming out of our urban core, rather.
But one of the things you help them do as well is taking kids from 16 to 22, helping them to get their diploma as well, not just giving them some work skills and trying to help them get a job. You actually help them complete school. And so I think that's one of the things that's vital, where they may not be fully engaged when they're in school full time. At least your program, half of the day they're in school, other half they're out, learning the trade or something like that is vital. And so that's why I wanted to highlight what you guys are doing. You're helping to build other people. helping to make our current world a better place by what you're doing. And one of the things that I remember when I was going through, was one of the ways to help me get over or get through some of the things I was going with is focusing on somebody else. And so I know we're all going through a lot of things, but I want to take this moment to focus on somebody else. So the name of the jewelry company John talked about is Unity Threads. The name of the charter school Anthony is talking about is Youth Build Preparatory Academy in Providence. And John, you have a slide for us on how they can go about ordering the bracelet if they want, and selecting Youth Build for the proceeds to go there. So you want to put that up for me, John?
Yeah, sure. Let's see if I can get the right screen up here. You might see yourself for half a second.
Oh, hey,
so
there you go.
There you go. You're right there. Hi, everybody. So basically, the name of the company is actually Treasured Threads, and Unity Threads is this particular line or brand. So Treasured Threads is spelled a little funky. I don't know why. There's no real story behind it. Everybody asks, like, why is it? What's with the Z? I'm like, I don't know. My wife thought of it. So you just go with it when the wife says so.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's why we live so long. Treasuredthreads.com. It's really easy. You can just go right there, pick whatever threads you want. Right now there's 3. We're going to add another one, which is actually kind of cool looking. You'll see, so stay tuned. But the Ultimate Threads is my favorite. That's the one I wear all the time. It's got a black cord. Energy Threads is red, and then Tranquility Threads is the blue. You can read the stories. You can check it out online. So treasuredthreads.com. You can order it right there. All of it's manufactured right here in Rhode Island, just so you guys know. Benefits our friends at Youth Build Prep. So why not? You get them in 5 to 7 days. They're in stock. They're ready to ship, ready to go.
All right. So with that, guys, I want to thank you. I know we ran over a little in time, but I'm reminded of what Les Brown always says. If anything is worth doing, it's worth doing badly at first. And so we stumbled out of the gate, but we got it going afterwards. And I hope you guys enjoyed the hour. Dr. Williams, as always, I appreciate it. Anthony, thank you for your time. John, thank you as always for not only being a good client, but a good friend, and checking in with us and giving us the information. Anthony just loaded the information to Youth Preparatory. It's in the comments for anybody who is interested. If you want more information about me, it's dreambuilder-ri.com. You want a free financial checkup, get in contact with me, and we can go from there. All right. Remember, your life is an occasion. I hope you guys rise to it. I'll see you soon. You guys have a good one and good night.